Pros, save more on the materials you need to get the job done inside and out at Lowe's. Right now, get 10% off in-stock Trex Naturals decking, now available in more styles. Plus, get 15% off select custom entry, interior, and storm doors. Then, we'll deliver it all straight to your job site to help keep your jobs moving. Get the brands pros trust, priced right, and ready when you need them. Our best lineup is here at Lowe's. Valid through 5/27. While supplies last. Selection varies by location.
How you doing, friends? Welcome to this episode of Scott Fox After 9. I'm in a great mood because I looked at the forecast for the upcoming Victoria Day long weekend, and frankly, it looks fantastic. In southern Ontario, we got to get through today where the high is only 12 degrees. If you're listening out west, you're probably thinking, 12? What the hell? Yeah, Ontario has been in a funk for months. 12 degrees is the high today. But after today, it looks like we go into summer mode. Sunny and 20 to kick off the Victoria Day long weekend. Saturday and Sunday, sunny and 24. Victoria Day, mix of sun and cloud and a high 27 degrees. It's going to feel closer to 30 with the humidity. Now, here's the thing. This upcoming Victoria Day long weekend is not going to be a typical one, especially in Ontario. New legislation from Doug Ford's government allows a lot more businesses to open up on Victoria Day, not the least of which retail shopping. So there's a lot of people who typically had Victoria Day off that are now going to be required to work on Victoria Day. And the way the province spun it, it was actually maybe brilliant on their part, maybe dishonest on their part. But they spun it as, oh, there's a lot of people that would like to earn some more money. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that are broke. That doesn't necessarily mean they want to work on a holiday. They also suggested that this would be voluntary and nobody could be compelled to work on the holiday. I don't know. I mean, when's the last time you told your boss no? In a lot of cases, that's hard to do without crossing the boss and getting on the bad side. So I feel like there's going to be a lot of people working this weekend that don't really want to work, but either have to or need to. And that is not their fault. That is the fault of the situation we're in, which, of course, was created by the government of the day. And I think we all know who those jokers are. On this episode of the pod, there's a few things I really, really want to cover. I'm going to start off with a court decision that came down yesterday in Alberta. As you likely know, separatists in Alberta that would like Alberta to be a free and independent country, they needed to collect a certain number of signatures in order to get that on the ballot for the referendum that Alberta is going to have in the fall. Well, they ended up exceeding the number they needed. Over 300,000 signatures came in. And yesterday, a judge, one individually appointed judge, is going to overrule the will of 300 citizens. Said it can't go forward. Said it's not constitutional. Does not comply with the law. That was from the judge. Well, here is Alberta Premier Danielle Smith.
I just spoke with Mitch Sylvester, the CEO of the Alberta Prosperity Project, and he told me that he expected this court decision to come down the way that it did, and he also expects you to call a referendum in response to it. So, I'm wondering what your message is for the people who do expect you to call a referendum.
Well, as you know, we make our decisions in government through a process that includes committees, through cabinet, as well as through caucus. And so my caucus has just learned of this decision. It just came down while we were in the legislature and haven't had a time to get together and discuss what our next steps will be. The committee has been meeting to look at the Forever Canada petition and to offer some suggestions about what should be done with that one as well. But we haven't made a decision yet. But I can tell you on this case in particular, this judgment, we think that there has been an error in law, which is why we're going to be appealing it. And we think it's anti-democratic. We want to make sure that citizens who participate in good faith in this process have an expectation that the Elections Alberta is going to validate their signatures. That's been stopped in this case, and that's part of the reason why we're going to appeal. But we'll have more to say once I have had a chance to talk with Cabinet and caucus.
And I'm very much looking forward to hearing what they decide. I am convinced this is going to get escalated to a higher level of court and possibly even the notwithstanding clause. Listen, 300,000 people putting their signature on anything is a compelling number, particularly when you compare that 300,000 to the population of Alberta. That is a significant number of people that are interested in having a referendum on sovereignty. By the way, this is only an issue when Alberta wants to do it. When Quebec wants to do it, we don't have these problems. So I'm very curious to see where this goes. One federally appointed judge overrules the will of 300,000 people. However, it's not done yet. There will be appeals, and I am very curious to see where this goes. Moving on to another topic, Bill C-22. Bill C-22 is one that I have not covered much here on the pod because I've been waiting to see how this unfolds. And frankly, every day that goes on, I learn more about Bill C-22 that I don't like. This one is the controversial Surveillance and Lawful Access Bill. This one is one where the federal government wants unprecedented powers for themselves and for law enforcement to invade our privacy. So what I'm going to do for you to try and explain why Bill C-22 is such an issue is I'm going to play some audio for you from a committee hearing. And questioning for the Conservative Party in this committee hearing is Roman Baber. Roman is talking to various people that you're going to hear here, and he's trying to get to the bottom of what Bill C-22 really does. My friends, this is one that I really, really think you should pay attention to because this is one where we're crossing into territory that is completely unprecedented and possibly unconstitutional.
I came across one of your YouTube videos on this law that we're studying now, C-22 lawful access, and I'd like to provide the committee a quick transcript of your remarks. If Bill C-22, the Lawful Access Act of 2026, became the law, the Government of Canada will be able to secretly order Apple to build in a capability into its infrastructure to allow Canadian law enforcement and national security folks to track every iPhone, every iPad, every Apple Watch, every Apple AirPod, and every AirTag in real time. They'll now be able to require Apple to confirm whether they provide you with any services. Then, law enforcement can go to Justice of the Peace and get an order without actually believing that a crime has been or will be committed, requiring Apple to hand over every device identifier for every device that you use with their services. That's the digital ID for your phone, for your iPad, Apple Watch, AirPod, Apple TV, Apple AirTag. With that information, they can go back to the judge and get an order, again, without actually believing that a crime has been or will be committed,
Mr. Baber,
requiring...
Mr. Baber, please. Mr. Baber, please, if you could just slow down a shade. Please.
I'm almost finished. Requiring Apple to give them the moment-by-moment location of all of your devices. Oh, and that secret order also required Apple to keep your location history for a full year, so cops can get that too.
Before I play the response to that, because it was kind of a question and kind of just reading a transcript, that's what Bill C-22 does. If you want to hear that again, maybe you're shaking your head right now saying, what the hell? Go back and listen to that. Hit that back button 4 times and you'll be at the beginning of that clip. That's what Bill C-22 does. That's what this Liberal government is trying to give themselves the power to do. A massive invasion of your privacy, even when law enforcement has no reason to think a crime has been committed or will be committed. They'll be able to access that info, including your location, in real time, and they would have to save that data for up to a year. Here's the response.
But if you take a look at all of these pieces as they go together, so Part 2 can require an electronic service provider. Undeniably, Apple is an electronic service provider, subject to a secret order to preserve metadata, location information, all that sort of stuff, and even build in new capabilities to their devices. That's under Section 7(2)(a) and B. And then you look at, so once that information exists, you can go to a judge and get an order on reasonable suspicion related to confirmation of service, then reasonable suspicion related to basic subscriber information, then reasonable suspicion in order to get metadata, tracking information, transaction information that they've been required to save. So this is an entire package or a potential entire package that we need to look at holistically and in detail.
Without actually believing that a crime has been committed, without swearing an affidavit saying, I believe that a crime has been committed, and therefore, I, Your Honor, get a court order.
Sounds a little ominous, doesn't it? That gives a lot of power to law enforcement, and there's a lot of gray area there about what the government and law enforcement might want that data for and what they're going to do with it. And also a fairly low threshold for the ability to access that and potentially even get a warrant. Let's hear a little bit more from that same committee proceeding.
One concern that I've heard is that many tech companies advertise that they have privacy controls. For example, companies that have smart devices in homes advertise that the microphones can't be turned on remotely so that they can listen. Under this legislation, it's kind of odd to me that it talks about how it's content, it's not here to look at content, but that the ministerial orders can order these companies to provide the capabilities to turn on a remote microphone. Is that correct?
Before you hear the answer, let me recap. You've got an Amazon Alexa in your house. Maybe you've got a Google smart speaker in your house. Well, as you know, it's got a microphone built in. That's how it hears the commands that you give it. What this would do, and I'm pretty sure the witness that is being asked this is going to confirm it. What this would do is allow the government to request that the microphone be turned on so they can surveil the conversation that's happening in your home or workplace. That's the theory that's being suggested here by Alberta MP Dane Lloyd. Let's find out if that's true.
So where they talk about content, that's in terms of retention of data. But it does allow for the creation or the ordering of intercept capability. So that would be an intercept capability. And now you could potentially have an order that would require that capability. And as long as it didn't create a systemic vulnerability, yes, it could be implemented. And they would have to change their advertising.
Now, that kind of creates a bit of a conundrum, because what if it's a secret ministerial order?
So, true. I don't have an answer for you.
So for the benefit of the committee and those watching, if a company says that remote microphones can't be turned on, and the government issues a ministerial order saying you need to build in the capability to turn on a remote microphone, the company in question could not change its advertising to say we will not remotely turn on your microphone without violating the very non-disclosure and secrecy clause. So they will still be advertising that they will not turn on remote microphones while the government has forced them to create that capability for law enforcement.
I'm not sure how a company would manage that situation.
What in the actual fill in the blank? That's what this government is trying to do with Bill C-22. Compel companies to build in the capability to be able to remotely turn on microphones in your home, whether it be through your smart speakers, your smart TV, or what have you, and listen in on the conversations that are happening in your home. Are you okay with that? Are you okay with that? Because I am certainly not okay with that. I want to know, why does the government want this information? What do they intend to do with this information? Where's the judicial oversight here? We're not talking about, we know that someone is planning a terror attack or something like that, and we're trying to thwart it, and we're going to use every tool in our toolbox. There's not a lot of oversight here. If the government wants to know what's going on in your home, they'll be able to access that. And they're going to instruct, with this law, companies to build in that backdoor capability for them to do it. Are you okay with that? Because if you're not okay with that, you are not in favor of Bill C-22, which is in front of the House of Commons right now. And you need to let your elected representatives know that this is crossing a line. I'm going to move on. Happening south of the border, there's a lot of committee testimony happening as well. This has to do with COVID, specifically Dr. Anthony Fauci, and specifically the origins of COVID-19, and specifically, was there a cover-up? Was there a cover-up in the origins of COVID-19? Yesterday in Washington, this was Capitol Hill, A CIA whistleblower testified under oath that Dr. Anthony Fauci directly meddled with intelligence agencies to cover up the COVID lab leak. Don't take my word for it. Here's the audio so you can hear it yourself.
But your conclusion is that changing from the scientific consensus of it being from a lab to a neutral position by the CIA was significantly influenced by Anthony Fauci?
It was significantly influenced by Anthony Fauci's injecting himself into the IC. And to go to the second part of your question about what happened, particularly during the 90-day study, we have documentation that shows that as of August 12th, the CIA was considering calling this a lab leak, August 12th of 2021. And then that changed on August 17th of 2021. Right. And unfortunately, because the CIA would not provide us documentation that we asked for, we have no idea why that changed. And that's
And they weren't alone, because we know the FBI was coming to the same conclusion that it was lab leak, as well as the FBI.
If you're not quite sure why this is important, let me tell you. We want to know what happened with COVID-19. We were told this was what? Somebody ate a bat or something like that came from a wet market in Wuhan. Well, it seems like the government was doing experimentation. They had COVID-19 in a lab, and somehow it leaked out of that lab and spread around the world. And we all know the damage that COVID-19 did. We all know that. The CIA is saying they were ready to go with it was a lab leak. The FBI had also come to the conclusion it was a lab leak. It was Dr. Anthony Fauci personally that meddled to try and keep that quiet so people did not find out they had secret labs, and we don't know which labs it was. Was it in Wuhan? Was it the Winnipeg lab that we've heard very, very little about and the federal government refuses to disclose what went on there? Was it there? We don't exactly know. But we know from this CIA whistleblower that they believed and the FBI believed this came from a lab. It wasn't the story they told us. And by the way, if it came from a lab, how the hell did that happen? Let's hear a little bit more. Senator Rand Paul has been calling for Dr. Fauci to be prosecuted over what went on around COVID. Here's a little bit more of the testimony in Washington yesterday.
I am a career CIA operations officer, and as you mentioned, I was on joint duty assignment at the Office of Director National Intelligence Directors Initiatives Group, or the DIG, between March 2025 and April 2026. I was responsible for leading the DIG's investigation into COVID origins, anomalous health incidents, and unidentified anomalous phenomena. I'm here today to discuss the COVID cover-up, the national security implications associated with the DIG's investigative findings, and CIA refusal to comply with lawful oversight, as well as how we remedy these problems. Intelligence community leaders and senior analysts downplayed the possibility that the COVID pandemic originated as a result of a lab incident. Motives are difficult to define given the scope of the DIG's review. Intentional or not, the IC's actions resulted in a cover-up, wasted resources, and a failure to properly inform policymakers. Public health policy would have been very different had the American public been made aware that a virus from a lab in China was going to serve as the foundation for an emergency use authorization mRNA products being mandated by the former administration. Dr. Fauci's role in the cover-up was intentional. Dr. Fauci influenced the analytical process and findings by leveraging his position to ensure the IC consulted with a conflicted list of curated subject matter experts, public health officials, and scientists. This included some of the authors of the paper, The Proximal Origin of SARS-CoV-2, and other public health experts who have been in his orbit for the last 20 plus years.
Incredibly damning testimony. That is something that every single person who was affected by COVID, and I'm going to speculate a guess that it was a hell of a lot of people. Everybody was affected in some way. That this wasn't the story they told us it was. This wasn't somebody who ate a bad bat that came from a wet market in Wuhan. This was something developed in a lab, processed in a lab, stored in a lab, that somehow got out and spread around the world. And we all know what happened after that. And Dr. Anthony Fauci, according to the CIA whistleblower, was very much in on the cover-up. Why? Was it to get people to take the vaccine? Is that why? Because I think that's the first thing that people think. Was it because of the vaccine? Let's get to a little bit more of this testimony.
Since 2006, the BSEG consulted part-time on biodefense issues for the IC, while conducting government-funded research and holding academia positions, as well as maintaining roles in public health institutions and serving as members in the National Academy of Science. They received funding from NIAID and other agencies for vaccine research, USAID's PREDICT project, the Cooperative Threat Reduction Program, and even worked with Chinese scientists on coronavirus and other pathogen studies pursuing vaccines. There was no oversight monitoring how this web of relationships influenced research, policy, and public health in any holistic way for over 20 years. In fact, several of the BSEG scientists helped Dr. Fauci rewrite definitions of gain of function in 2015 to lift a funding pause on dangerous research. Still others participated in planning Event 201 in 2019. This was a coronavirus pandemic tabletop exercise, curiously similar to the events that played out during the COVID-19 pandemic. And it was attended by Dr. Fauci and individuals with IC ties like former DNI Avril Haines. The CIA and DNI analytic managers responsible for examining the origin of COVID made decisions inconsistent with the conclusions of subject matter experts and analytical tradecraft, consistently favoring the theory of zoonosis or natural origin. Following the CIA's COVID relook that culminated in 2023, the CIA retaliated against analysts supporting the lab leak hypothesis. CIA analysts were not bribed. The analysts that supported the 2023 lab leak conclusion took every administrative measure available to them to address their deep concerns regarding the analytic integrity of their finished intelligence. CIA managers retaliated against them for their refusal to agree with management's middle-of-the-night anonymous rewrite of the analysis, which changed the assessment to a non-call judgment.
I'm going to leave it there. I think everybody gets the idea. I think everybody is starting to piece together what went on here, and frankly, it stinks. It stinks. This is serious. Dr. Fauci, this is somebody who was granted a retroactive pardon for his role in COVID-19 by Joe Biden at the 11th hour as Joe Biden was on his way out the door of the White House. Why would Joe Biden do that? Did Joe Biden know that all of this was going on under his watch? There's no reason to think he didn't. Why was the CIA so intimately involved in this? There are so many questions here, and frankly, this stinks. Let's find out where this one goes. But friends, I wanted that on your radar. The story we were told about COVID-19, based on the testimony of this CIA whistleblower, is not how it actually happened. That's not how it went down. This was something far worse. I'm now going to move on to Ottawa. Yesterday, the Prime Minister was meeting with Jeremy Hansen and the crew of Artemis II. I thought this was a nice moment. Listen to this.
And then I have, flag for a flag. Jeremy, I'm afraid we only have one. And this is, if you look out that window on top of what's called the Peace Tower, is obviously the Canadian flag, and this is the flag that flew on the day you splashed down.
Oh, wow. That is awesome. That is absolutely extraordinary. So, should I open this or not? Is that a good idea?
I've opened one of, you can open it, but I've opened one of them before, and These are all scientists, so they have a sense of dimensions. They're really, really big. So
It is in there.
It is in there, and there is an art to folding it back up, which obviously don't know. All right.
Hey, that's nice. He's kind of jumping the queue there. The Prime Minister should absolutely be able to do that. That is an appropriate gift to give an astronaut who made the world and Canada specifically proud, a shining example of how great Canada's best are that come out of the Canadian Space Agency. No dispute at all. That's an appropriate gift there for Jeremy Hansen and the crew of Artemis II. But back to this flag thing on the Peace Tower. Did you know that regular citizens can request one of those? You can write in or go to the website and you can request a flag that has flown on top of the Peace Tower. There's a 100-year-long waiting list for one of those flags. 100 years. So I don't know who got bumped out of the queue there because Jeremy Hansen got one of the flags, but clearly we've got a backup and clearly there's a demand here. This is my common sense suggestion. Since there's so many people that would like to have a flag that is flown on top of the Peace Tower, our symbol of democracy here in Canada, maybe we should start putting up more than one flag a day. You know, we seem to have an awful lot of civil servants running around the House of Commons with not a lot to do. Maybe it should be somebody's job a couple of times a day, pull the flag down, fold it up, send it off to a resident, put up a new flag. And that way, think of this. If we put up 4 flags a day, one at the beginning of the day, one mid-morning, one mid-afternoon, and then one for the evening. If we did just that simple thing, we could cut that 100-year waiting list down to 25 years. Maybe we put one up every hour on the weekends. There's a lot of demand. Let's clear the backlog. That is a perfect example of Ottawa's inefficiency. They've got something. Very low cost to the taxpayers. The taxpayers seem to want this and like this, and there's a 100-year wait for it. Craziness. That's just a suggestion. I don't know if it's... No, it is practical. I mean, that's a totally common sense thing to do. Fly more than one flag in a day, but I don't know if they're going to do that. Either way, I did want you to know that if you ever want one of those flags, you can request one, and you go to the House of Commons website to do that and just follow the links.
Ready to buy a car, a home, or just want to take control of your money? Your FICO score matters, and 90% of top lenders use it to make decisions. Check your FICO score for free today without hurting your credit score. Visit myfico.com/free or download the MyFICO app today. MyFICO gives you the score lenders use most, plus credit reports and real-time alerts to help keep you on top of your credit. Visit myfico.com/free and take the mystery out of your FICO score.
Another thing that the Prime Minister did is making headlines. Yesterday, I briefly talked about the Liberal nomination meeting that happened in Scarborough over the weekend, where Nate Erskine-Smith lost after Prime Minister Carney endorsed him. In case you did not hear that endorsement, let's hear it again.
You can have the ideas, you can have the hard work, but also to be really on the ground with your constituents, knowing what's going on, what their needs are, and working together. And, you know, it hurts in some respects you're going, but I understand it because you're going to be more on the ground. Working at the provincial level, working for the folks, I hope, in Scarborough, in healthcare and education, making lives better, helping to grow that economy, and we'll be right there alongside.
That was the Prime Minister not endorsing Nate Erskine-Smith. You know, it's funny now that Nate lost and it's turning into a bit of a mess, especially with the appeal of the vote happening now. Now the Prime Minister's office is trying to say, oh, that wasn't an endorsement. That was just a casual conversation between the Prime Minister and Nate Erskine-Smith. It was Nate's campaign that released it. It wasn't supposed to be an endorsement. Well, now it appears the Prime Minister's office is just lying. They did multiple takes on that. You're telling me that's not an endorsement? You just heard it. It was an endorsement. I don't know why they're trying to cover this up or make it something that it wasn't, but that is very, very, very strange. Still with the Prime Minister.
Keir Starmer's introduced a digital ID card. Wants to make it mandatory as a way of controlling immigration. Is that something Canada might consider?
Well, Paul, one thing I would put in terms of context is the UK is relatively unique in not having other forms of identification. So there's been a long history here not to have ID. In Canadians, we have various forms of ID. We have driver's license, you have social insurance license. You have forms of identification. In terms of, now, are there merits to having common digital identification for government services, for you say immigration, also for financial services, portability, other aspects? There may be. We don't have current plans for that.
Prime Minister Carney there talking about digital ID. Digital ID is one of those ones that for a lot of years, Canadians have been hearing it's coming, and there's people on either side of it. Some think, digital ID, that's great. It'll be very convenient. Other people are suggesting digital ID is not something you want administered by this government because it gives them unprecedented powers to know what you're up to. Every time you flash that ID, they're going to know about it. There will be a record of it for whatever. They're going to know if you go to a sporting event. They're going to know if you leave the country. They're going to know if you try and access federal programs or provincial programs, etc. They're going to know everything about you when we go to digital ID. So the Prime Minister there, kind of distancing ourselves from the UK on that particular one, but leaving the door open. Let's hear what King Charles has to say about digital ID.
My ministers will also proceed with the introduction of digital ID that will modernize how citizens interact with public services.
That was the King reading the throne speech. Digital ID is here. There's a lot of Canadians who want to resist it. Some are in favor of it. Some people think, yeah, it's great. Other people seeing obvious red flags. And frankly, after what I heard about Bill C-22, now hearing that the Prime Minister is going to go all in on, the Commonwealth is going to go all in on digital ID, I'm starting to side with the conspiracy theorists, quote unquote, the ones who are saying that digital ID is going to lead to a mass surveillance state. Here's more of the King. He, in that throne speech, talked about a number of different things. This in particular, I want you to hear because it might sound familiar.
An increasingly dangerous and volatile world threatens the United Kingdom, with the conflict in the Middle East only the most recent example.
Let me hear that just one more time, because isn't that exactly what Mark Carney weaves into every speech?
An increasingly dangerous and volatile world threatens the United Kingdom.
Carney says in a more dangerous and divided world. The King said dangerous and volatile world. Listen, you've just got to believe it. They're all reading from a script. It's all coming from the same place. That place, I'm not going to go there. But there's a lot of people who are speculating on that. I'm not going to go there. I don't need to. But there's a reason that left-leaning governments are all using not just the exact same policies, but the exact same talking points. Keir Starmer, Mark Carney, all of them. They all do it. They're all dropping that same line. They talk about rule of law, and they talk about a dangerous and divided world. That's the pretext for how they're setting all of this up. Whatever it is that they're introducing, whether it be Bill C-22, digital ID, you name it. It seems like the government really, really, really wants to know exactly what all of us are up to, whether we're regular, law-abiding, tax-paying citizens or we're scumbag criminals that are out there running havoc on the street. By the way, the criminals, they're not going to have to go through this. It's just the regular folks like you and I that follow the law, pay our taxes, and just want to live in peace and freedom. One more from the Prime Minister. He was asked about the temporary foreign workers program. This is another one I think everybody should listen to.
Mr. Poilievre called this morning on the government to scrap the temporary foreign worker program. Is it time to shut the program down?
Well, I would say the following, which is that that program has a role. It has to be focused in terms of its role, and it's part of what we're reviewing. It's part of what we will be discussing, how well the temporary foreign worker program is working and how our overall immigration system is working. We've been absolutely clear as a government that we want, and we're putting in place policies so that the overall level of immigration as a proportion of the population will decline from around 7% today to around 5% several years from now. Now, the biggest contributor to immigration is not temporary foreign workers. It's a variety of other factors. And I will say, je vais répéter en français parce que c'est important, when I talk to businesses around the country, particularly in Quebec, but elsewhere across the country, their number one issue is tariffs, and their number two issue is access to temporary foreign workers. Okay? Et pour le moment, c'est une des grandes demandes du gouvernement du Québec, et c'est une des grandes demandes.
Yeah, he goes in and out of French when he really doesn't want the clip to play on English television. He knows that that's not going to play well. What do you think is the truth? Honestly, ask yourself this. What's the truth? Do you think that the Prime Minister is running around, and he's not the only one doing it, by the way. There's other people in government that are claiming this. Businesses are begging for temporary foreign workers. Do you think that that's true? Or do you think they're saying that to try and lay the groundwork for going ahead and allowing more temporary foreign workers anyway? Because I'm looking at these unemployment numbers, which are growing by the hour. And I'm wondering why on earth we would bring anyone else to this country, particularly when the number one reason we're bringing them is to go ahead and take the job that a Canadian could be doing. I don't believe these businesses that say we can't find a Canadian who wants to do the job. I think there's enough people unemployed that nobody with a straight face can say, we can't find a Canadian willing to do the job. I just don't accept that. I don't think that's real. I think the government wants to continue bringing people here, and this is just their latest way to do it. That's just my opinion. That's how I see it, because I don't believe it. If businesses truly are begging for more temporary foreign workers, and they're going to lie to our faces and say we can't find Canadians willing to do it, why do they want them here? Is it cheap labor, or they want to bring friends and family from another country? Is that what it is? I don't know. I don't know the answer. But I do know that when unemployment is this bad, when we've got millions of people lined up at food banks, when we've got chaos happening in just about every file in this country, bringing more people here is probably not the practical solution right now. By the way, more than 37,000 Canadians filed for insolvency in the first 3 months of 2026. That's the highest number since 2009, coming out of the 2008 financial crisis. Let me say that stat for you again. More than 37,000 Canadians have filed an insolvency proposal in the first 3 months of 2026. That's almost 160,000 averaged out over the year. How can we continue on like that? How can anyone look at the state of what's going on here in our country and say things are good when 37,000 Canadians filed insolvency proposals in just the first 3 months of 2026? I truly don't understand it. Friends, I'm up against the clock here, so there's something else I want to play for you because I think that this is something we should all recognize. It's not going to be a where were you when kind of moment, but it's still something that I think deserves a little bit of attention.
Win for the Tempo, defeating the Seattle Storm 86-73 in Toronto in front of their home fans. Just their second regular season game. Marina Mabry leading the way.
Marina Mabry was fantastic last night. The Toronto Tempo got their first win in franchise history in only their second game. By the way, speaking of Marina, here's her talking after the game.
Marina, your first win in franchise history. Yeah. What does it mean to do it in front of this crowd?
Like I said, they're like our sixth man. They have great energy. They're hyping me up. They're hyping up the whole team. And we wouldn't have been able to do it without you guys. So show up first again. We're going to go on the road and get some wins and come back.
Great stuff. Part of the reason I want to play that is because I still talk to people from time to time who aren't ready to embrace it, who don't think it's legitimate, who think that this is all contrived and this is some sort of a DEI initiative in creating the WNBA, the PWHL, and various other leagues for professional women's sports. And to those people, I completely respect your opinion on sports and your ability to say how you feel. But I want to offer a counterpoint, and I want to do this as dad of a girl. My daughter, growing up, did not have the PWHL to watch. She was never able to watch a hockey game and see another woman competing at the highest level of sports. That never happened when she was growing up. Same with the WNBA. It just wasn't a thing when she was growing up. And, my son, when he was growing up, hey, he had all kinds of different sports that he could watch with people that looked like him, that were also males, that were competing and playing for a championship. But women never had that. And I think it's important that they do. It's no skin off your back to have the women playing professional basketball. If you're a regular NBA fan, and you don't like the WNBA, fine, no problem. Nobody's asking you to watch it. And frankly, you're not the target anyway. This is targeted at women. This is for those little girls growing up that are playing a game of basketball in the school gym or in the school playground. They're out there playing basketball, dreaming big, the same way so many boys do. And now there's finally someone on television, or a group of people on television, a team out there that's doing it, that's playing professionally. And it sets the bar high, but it tells girls that it's possible. And if you want it, you can have it. You got to work for it, but you can have it. And I think that that's the best part about the WNBA, the PWHL, and any other women's professional leagues that come in. I will support them until I'm blue in the face because I think we need it. I think it's important that we have it. And by the way, when it comes to the PWHL, so far the Toronto Scepters have been a bit of a letdown, if I'm being honest, talking purely from a competitive standpoint. Now Hamilton is getting a franchise. They've announced Las Vegas, Detroit, and Hamilton are all entering the league. I want to see one hell of a rivalry in the PWHL between the Toronto team and the Hamilton team. They're formally announcing the Hamilton team today. They're going to play at TD Coliseum. I think that's great. I think it's great for the sport. I think it's great for girls that are playing hockey. And I don't think anybody needs to crap on this because you're a purist, because you like NHL hockey. Doesn't mean you need to belittle the PWHL. There's a market for it. There's an audience for it, and there's a need for it. And I am going to stand behind that. By the way, I mentioned the Hamilton PWHL franchise. They're going to be playing at TD Coliseum. That is also where the Toronto Rock play. And tomorrow night is game 1 of the NLL Championship. I'm going to be there. I am the in-game host, and in 12 years, I haven't missed a single home game. I've been at every single one of them, and I have wanted so badly for that franchise to win a championship, and it hasn't happened so far in my time with the team. But tomorrow night, it's a distinct possibility. So if you are anywhere in the greater Toronto, Hamilton, Kitchener, Niagara area, I implore you, if you want a fun, affordable night out and you want to see a local team competing for a championship, be at TD Coliseum in Hamilton tomorrow night, Friday, May the 15th. That's game 1. Game 2 is going to be in Halifax on Sunday. If a game 3 is necessary, it'll be next weekend in Hamilton. Let's support this team. Let's cheer them on to a championship. Go Rock Go. Friends, tomorrow is listener DMs, and I'll catch you right back here tomorrow to read those. Have yourselves an amazing day, and let's get ready for the May 2-4 weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Are you trying to get weight loss support through telehealth, but it feels overwhelming and rushed? Check out OrderlyMeds.com now. OrderlyMeds.com was built to be different. Here, you connect with real doctors who take the time to understand your goals, review your eligibility, and guide you through a plan that's right for you. Orderly Meds provides access to proven GLP-1 medications like semaglutide and tirzepatide, including both name brand options and personalized compound versions when appropriate. So you have choices backed by clinical oversight, not guesswork. It's a simpler, more supportive telehealth experience designed around people who want clarity, care, and confidence in their weight loss journey. And your medication is delivered directly to your home in discreet packaging, so your experience stays private from start to finish. Do your research, ask the right questions, then visit orderlymeds.com/podcast for an exclusive offer. Again, that's orderlymeds.com/podcast. Individual results may vary, not medical advice. Eligibility required. See site for details.